to create a network within my company so that we can communicate amongst ourselves effectively. There may be different departments or different sessions though, but then not all these sessions or departments may have to be communicating with the other department. And so we have tried to create a network of our own where we can be communicating amongst ourselves, like just like an intranet, but not necessarily making use of the internet. Even though the principle which will guide us within the company will be in the concepts of what happens on the internet. But the main idea here is to just do a local network within ourselves. So if I am in my office and I want to quickly communicate with the finance department, I only get on and I send it to them. I am only using the technologies which are existing on the internet, but we are not yet connected to the internet. We are just still within. Yes. So the size that the network will cover, that is what will lead us to have about 3 different kinds of networks which exist. Now, let's know this. Many other networks exist for the purpose of which the network was established. For example, if I'm establishing a network here, mainly for the reason of backup, it could be a storage area network, because this whole environment, this whole room is established for the reason of creating backups from our different centers. They are all gathering, this center is for gathering data from different centers, back it up, store them for future use in the case where it is required. Then in that case, we can talk of a storage area network or something. So apart from these 3 main ones, which are precisely concerning the area or the size they cover, there may be others depending on the purpose. So we can think of a personal area network, a network for some few people who are just doing some projects, who are just working on some project or something. Then it's there, but it's all dependent on what is being done. But in the actual sense of the word, when we talk of networks, we consider 3 main types based on their sizes, and these 3 are the local area network, the metropolitan area network, and the wide area network. And the wide area network. So we'll look at each of them, and we'll look at the advantages and the disadvantages, and then we will see what is preferred, or depending on what you have or your size, what is really preferred. That is what is needed. So the first one is the local area network. Now, in the local area network, as I've said, it is the one with the smallest proximity or area or size. Okay, so the number of devices used within the network are not that much. The area within which that network covers is not also that big. A small network you're creating, usually for an office building, maybe a particular center or a lab, even a home or an office. Okay, so they are small. Okay, they range from a home network, maybe from some few users, to an enterprise one with maybe something like almost close to 1,000. But then they are all existing in just one proximity, one area. So, for example, if I should be having, let's say in the code building in Cape Coast, in the code building, it's a very huge building. So maybe in code in there, we have about maybe 5 departments. And for each department, there may be about 20 workers in there, or 40 workers in every department. That is still within the code building in there, just that environment, that proximity. That's where the whole process is taking place. So we are still thinking of or looking at the case where it is a local area network, because it doesn't span beyond that office or building that is found in there. Okay, so it says that this means that these it connects devices that are in a single limited area. And examples could be a school network. Mostly schools are always built in a very in a local area, in a close proximity area. Whether it's a primary school, whether it's a university, which is all in a closed environment or whatever. Mostly they are found in a very limited area. They don't span beyond the area which they are. It could be a laboratory, a computer laboratory. It could be a university campus. Even when it comes to two computers, a peer-to-peer system of connecting, and then more and more. So we can cite more examples by ourselves, and they will know exactly what they do. So it's just the size we are looking at here. Then what are the benefits of creating such a network? I'm creating a network and I can't access beyond my locality. Now, what is the essence? Now, one, this network most often may behave like a peer-to-peer type of network, which I think, I don't know whether you've looked at it before, but I believe so. Appears like a peer-to-peer type of network. What makes it beneficial? One, hardware resources are shared. It is very simple to share your hardware resources. Okay, so you may go to, when you go to, well, I'm sure even in code, it's happening there. But when you go to the basement of our library, you see library, the main library, where we have the ICT center. When you get there are different columns, or let's say cubicles. They've grouped the place into cubicles. And for each room, there are machines. For each room, there are machines. I don't know exactly how many number of machines exist in there. Now, for each room, there's nothing like a printer existing by every computer. But in actual fact, that is exactly where sometimes, in some years ago, students who have come in afresh will have to go in there and get registered. So they may have to be in a long queue, get in there. Whoever is free at that time, there'll be about, let's say, 150 computers in there. Now, when you get in there, whoever is free, those who are registering, whoever is free, you walk to the person, you sit with the person, and then the person registers you. And then the person will now click on print, the print command on the particular word processor or something that he's using. Now, when he clicks on the print command, we expect that the printer out of which that sheet will come should be located close to the machine, where I'll just pick it from there. No, but what was actually happening was that that same printer, there was only one printer which all other machines in there were printing through. Every machine in there was printing through that particular one. So when you get to one particular registrar, and the person does registration, tells you go and pick your sheet, you only point to a heavy duty printer somewhere, and you walk there. By the time you get there, other people's sheets would have also been ready there. So all the machines in the room are using that single printer. And that is possible because the printer, that hardware resource, has been shared amongst all the printers in there. It's a local area network. That's a beautiful benefit. Even other machines can even share their hardware resources and make them available for others to also use. Yeah, and I think last week, the last time we met, I think I cited an example of when I was doing my first degree here in UGC. I had a colleague friend who was also having a machine, in the hall. Luckily, fortunately enough, I was living in an area very close to campus, not necessarily hostel, but where I lived in before I came to school. That was where I was living. So I was living in a place very close to campus. So when it's on vacation and my friend is going home, he will prefer to keep his machine in my home at the desktop system. So the system unit is there, the monitor is there, the staffs are all there. So you prefer to keep them in my home. But his machine had a bigger capacity in terms of the hard disk size. So when he brings it to my home, he has a lot of stuffs in there, a lot of notes in there, a lot of beautiful applications in there, which of course I can't keep them all on mine because my space in there is limited. So what do? I had to just quickly get a simple network cable, then connect his to mine. So I had to just connect his machine to mine, then set the right IP address, and then share a particular folder or even the hard disk, the particular hard disk which contains all the stuff. In fact, his hard disk was partitioned. So the particular one which contains the stuff I need, I went onto his machine and I shared it. So when I shared it, I could come back to my machine and now access it as if it is part of my machine. Then I was just doing it. Now that was possibly because I shared that hardware resource. That was his hard drive, which I shared. You could equally share somebody's DVD drive or CD drive, where you place in the CD or the DVD, and you can equally play it on your machine and the other stuffs. So he is playing on his machine, and you're also playing it on your machine, and you're all watching the movie you all prefer. Now, all this is possible because of the local area network. So this is as an illustration, all the resources could be networked to a single computer, which allows the connected computers to share the resources whenever they were needed. That's a very good part of this local area network. Now, some local area networks mostly may not be having, let's say, a dedicated system which is monitoring or managing the network. If that happens, then maybe certain services like sharing of anyone's resource could be limited or could have a challenge. But because it is not so, what may possibly happen is that any other person can do that. But the moment you get a particular server or system which is now managing what everyone is doing on the network, that is where you may have a challenge with the sharing of these resources. Even for that one, because it's a local area network, there are settings or configurations you can do to allow that to happen. So at least all other people can do. In as much as hardware can be shared, software can also be shared. You can also share software. So the very software which has been installed on someone's own, especially those ones that have the license. I mean, the licensed software can be shared so that it can be accessed on a network by others as well. And that's what usually what happens. Like for instance, in UCC or other places, Zoom, as an example, is actually a commercial software. So if you want to really use the premium side, I mean the very one which has a bigger capacity and a bigger efficiency, you may have to purchase that one. Okay. But what if not everyone is having the opportunity of purchasing it? So in that case, you see, may purchase it, or the company may purchase it, and then let it exist on the company's network, so that every other machine that is in need of that software can easily get along with it, access it, because it's existing on the network. In that case, that software, which should have been bought individually by members, has now been shared. So in that case, you don't need to do a separate license or buy a separate license for your own self. They can all operate under one single license, all of them. Okay, because it's been bought, and it's been bought in such a way that all others on the network can access that particular software. So you can also share software even in such a system, and it's very convenient for communication. Okay, it's very, very convenient for communication. As I told you, there can still be the existence of servers on the network, but then it is not necessarily serving as a main gateway for the internet. But then the system, what happens within there is using what may happen on the internet. Like for instance, if I want to send, you can have a local area mail. I mean, a mailing system which is localized. That's why in some companies, even when the network is down, in some companies, there is still a possibility that in the company itself, they can't access the internet though, because the ISP may be the problem, or that's where the issue may be coming from. But you go into that company, the local, let's say they're having a local mailing system, which is on their own email server system, then you could realize that you could go in there and realize that they are still able to transmit data on their mails within the local network. But they are trying to send something, a mail to someone outside, to a Gmail account to someone outside. That's where there will be a stuck or there will be a problem. But as far as it exists within the mailing system in the server, within their server, their domain, it still works. only because it is existing on their local area network. So communication becomes very effective and very convenient. Okay, with whatever data you need, you can just call in for it from a server. You make a request for it, and then you get what you really want because it is on the land. On the land. Okay, Ransom. Ransom, your hand is up.
Yes, hello, sir.
Mhm.
Yes, please, can different segments of networks communicating on different protocols share resources on the same or on the local network?
Come again. Can different machines in
Segment of, eh,
yes.
I'm asking whether different network segments
Uh-huh.
communicating on different protocols can share resources on a local network.
When you say they're communicating on different protocols, what do you mean?
Um, let's say with different IP addresses. Let's say we have switch A and switch B.
Uh-huh.
Switch A has different IP address,
Mhm.
and then switch B also have different IP address.
Okay.
Can both networks communicate or share resources
Okay. So
in
in
a
the first
local
place,
network?
we don't assign IP address to switches. IP addresses are assigned to the devices which are connected to the switches, not to the switches. So we don't have a switch with an IP address. Now, so for a particular LAN, maybe that's what you refer to. So a switch can be used to create a full LAN. Now, if I should create a LAN on this switch, I assign IP addresses to the machines which are connected to the LAN. Now, when I assign those IP addresses, I should make sure that the IP addresses I am assigning to the machines are actually corresponding to the network I have created. So, for example, if I create a network and it's maybe, well, I think that's why I even told you of the IP addressing the other time, because mostly we still need IP address, and that's why we did it the other time. Now, if I give an IP address or I give IP address to the machines, and if it's for the network, that is the IP address for that network. Now, in a different LAN, that LAN could also be having 8 different sets of IP addresses. But then, if they don't correspond to each other, they can't communicate. Let me give you a typical example. We haven't gotten there yet. But example. Now, when a company is set up and the company is requesting internet connectivity from an ISP or ICANN, the ISP only gives them once a single IP address called the network address. Now, when they bring that network address into their company, it is left to their network engineers to decide, are we going to create just a single big, huge network? Or, just like you said, we will segment the network or subnet them, segmentation of the network. So if we're supposed to have a single network, it should have 255 machines, assuming. But then, if we should put them into segments or subnets, we may have maybe 50 here, 50 here, 50 here, 50 here. And then for each of the 50, they will have their own management. So their own switches, their own routers. Next one have their own switches, their own routers. The next one have their own switches. That is where I think I even told you bridges can come in there when it's subnetting. But the fact is, when you do this, that segmentation or subnetting you have done, you have not created different networks from the one that is also there. No, you have only divided a single network into many, but not creating a new network. If you should create a different network totally, they can still communicate, provided you have put in place the right devices and protocols. So I told you, if you have different networks, you will need routers to connect them. If you have the same network but put into subnet or segment, you will need bridges to connect them. So the protocols, IP protocols, if it's IP, the IPs that have been used in there must conform to what has been given to you by the ISP. Anything outside that scope it will not work. But it must conform with what has been given to you by the ISP. So yes, when you have different networks or you have different LANs in a particular network, they can communicate. That is, if you have a big LAN or if you have a big network and then you put them into different segments or subnets, they can communicate because you are the one who segmented them. And so you know how the IP addresses that was given to you was broken into many and assigned to them. Of course, we will do it. For the IP address, and that's what we should have done next, subnetting or segmentation. They would have known how to bridge them. Say, I don't know if you're okay.
Yes, I'm okay.
All right, okay. Okay, so that is what we've said, convenient communication, and then also there's easy identification of devices. Okay, it's easily identified. Now, every computer which exists on the LAN, in fact, the truth is, each machine on the LAN may have two major addresses: the IP address and a MAC address. But of course, for a MAC address, it's more of a unique identifier for a machine, which is actually granted by the manufacturer. It's a firmware. We call it a firmware. So it's actually granted by the manufacturer. But then the IP address is assigned. So the IP stack or the NIC card, the network interface card, is usually opened for that variety. You can set it, change it, set it just to seal the network on which you are found. Okay, but the fact is that the moment you fall under a LAN, it is easy to identify a device on the LAN. Okay, so on a typical instance of a network, I always tell my students, we don't assign IP address to a computer. It is something that everyone should talk about. But for a technical person, a computer science person or an IT personnel, you don't say we assign a computer to, well, of course, that's the best way to say. But then in technical terms, when we are dealing with the on-the-ground job itself, we assign the IP address, the NIC card in the machine. That's where the IP address will be found. Okay, that's which is so on the motherboard. That is where it is found. So the moment you place that in the machine, it gets connected to the machine's motherboard, and then the machine accepts it as its unique identifier or IP address. And it's easy to locate a machine on that network. So if I'm here, I remember for some of the instances where we have in our department, we don't have a very huge lab though, but we try to put it in a state where groups of students are able to come to lab to work. For a particular session, what happened was that students had to work on the machines in the lab. I think it was a programming session, so they were supposed to write a program. Now, when you are done with the program may have other libraries you may have to work on. So by the time the program is run or compiled, you would have gotten a number of files which works with the main file itself. Then you put everything in a folder and you leave it on your machine. When you are through with that, you don't do anything, you leave it on your machine. Now, consequently, maybe the lecturer would have also gone round with a pen drive to copy from each machine the assignment done by the student. No, but he sits on a particular server, assumed server, and then gets into all the machines quickly, copies everything, and then he's gone. Now he's able to contact these devices individually because they find themselves on the LAN. And they also are identified because they have a NIC card and they have something which is uniquely identifying them. It is easy to get to them and then copy the files in there. So these are the very good parts of establishing a LAN. Maybe it also have some issues related to it, and one of them will be the costs of setting up. It's well, as compared to others, it will not be that expensive, not too expensive, but if we don't compare ourselves to other networks, then we should still think of what is happening in there. the amount of money we may have to spend in there to establish it, it will still be expensive. It will still be expensive. Why? Because you would need a whole lot of devices. Say, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Please, can the MAC address be changed like the IP address?
Yes. Today in our world now, in the time where it was created anew, it was impossible. But today in our world now, things have changed. It's just like saying, let me give you an example. In those years, you could not change or you could not program directly to a processor. You could not. So if I am writing a program, it is the processor which is found in the machine who should pick it. To just pick it. You have no choice. So the two main processors which are found in every machine is the CPU and the GPU. One is a central processing unit, and the other one is the graphics processing unit, which is supposed to be handling the videos and the images. So you don't write your program and decide that because my program is a heavy program, I would like a CPU to handle a GPU to handle it, just to make it run fast. No, you couldn't code to the metal. That's how they called it. There was nothing like having to code to the metal. But today, with the existence of technology or with the modernization of technology, like NVIDIA, CUDA, what we call compute, unified device architecture, and the rest, you can write a program and decide that I want the GPU to run my program, not the CPU, by the way you program it. Yes. Now, in the same way, every network device will also have a MAC address. That MAC address is bent into the hardware. I mean, it is put in it. So it is, we usually say that it's a factory thing. The factory setting, it's something that is set at the factory side. Okay. Now, you can't permanently change that original hardware MAC, which comes with it. But then, you can change the MAC address at the software level on most devices. Not the permanent one on the hardware, but at a software level, you can change it. Or sometimes you can say you can, and there's a word for it, I've forgotten the word for it. It's more related to security. I think spoofing or something. You can spoof it at the software level. But then the original MAC address will be the same in the hardware. But the OS, the operating system, will just maybe for a time, which is changed, may present a different MAC address for the sake of the network. And this one may only last for a time, maybe until the device will restart or until the network interface card may have to reset. That is where it lasts. Then the main one exists. So for the very main MAC address on a system, yes, it may change at the level of the software, but the main hardware MAC address, which is firmly bent on the hardware, it is unchangeable. It can be modified, it can be changed. That's why it is called a firmware, firmly written on it. So, like, let me give an example. Like the one I was talking about, the GPU and the CPU. Today, on a Windows system, you can use OpenGL, can use NVIDIA, can use other ones to modify the nature of the program which is being run on the GPU, but you can't change the GPU itself. For the sake of the software to run, you would code to the GPU and let it run the software you're running. But to change the nature of the GPU, to go and say that, change the GPU's memory from 2 gig to 20 gig, it's not possible. But you can let it aid you in the modification of something you're doing. That is how the MAC address also behaves. So people may do it for many reasons. Okay, MAC address may be modified mainly for security reasons. Let me give a typical instance where a MAC address will be used for security reasons. You know, when we get to IP, the last two, when we do the IP address, I told you that there are two ways of having to assign IP address. It's either by by static means or dynamic means. Now, if dynamic means, then the system will pick it from the server, the DHCP server, automatically. Now, if it is static, you must assign it. Now, in both ways, if you assign it, the two things, the IP address and the MAC address, the two of them are the ones which will uniquely identify your machine at that instance. What if in a DHCP one, I am using my network right now, and then whilst I use my network, a DHCP system has assigned me an IP address. Then it is known that this IP address is with me. I do all my necessary hacking, my malicious acts are in there, and I disconnect it and I run away. Maybe someone else who may come in later on may also find that IP address free, and that machine will be given that IP address. The question will be, if they are tracking me, my IP address, would they track me on the network? Or how they track me? Because that same IP address, maybe that same day, it was given out to a whole number of people as well. So sometimes people may even do what? Because I don't want to be tracked based on my MAC address, because it's my MAC address which can allow them to track me. If they should track me only on my IP address, that IP address, 10 people have used that same IP address on that same day. If you want to track me, you may have to track me with my IP address, like my MAC address instead. Because for IP address, it is still not unique in there at that time. People, and I mean experts, not everyone will do, can avoid tracking on even a public Wi-Fi by changing their MAC address. But for that moment, it cannot last. And that happens. I mean, that is a talk of a different thing, a more hardware thing. And these things, they have maybe a system, an access control system, which can help you bypass them. And these are security stuff, actually. Yeah, so it's possible, but with restrictions. It can be changed only temporarily. We call it spoofing. It has been spoofed. It will appear as if there has been a change, but it's not a change itself. It has been spoofed. Okay, but then the original hardware MAC cannot be permanently altered. I believe it's okay. Okay, all right. So let's quickly carry on. So as I've said, these are stuffs which really make the LAN disadvantageous or have some demerits for which people may not. Then policy violations. These unauthorized users can examine the downloads and the browsing histories of every link computer because of all the connected machines data is stored on a single central server. Yeah, I think it's raising the issue of security. Okay, in a LAN system, the administrator has power, a lot of power, just like it wouldn't be in a different network. But that's, of course, it's all the same thing. I mean, in different areas. But he has a lot of power, which means that whatever happens on other networks, they can be found. You know, in the years ago, today things have changed. So even without a browser, you can still be able to identify things happening on networks. But then the best way to sometimes find what others are doing is to access their browser and look at the browsing history, the cookies, those things. Then you will know exactly the various pages or links which have been visited. Then you can actually get to know the privacy or invade into the privacy of these network users. Okay, so sometimes these things happen. So why would you have to invade into my privacy? Or why would you get into something I'm doing that I would not even want others to know? So it still leads to security issues. Of course, when it comes to security issues, it is a major problem in every network. Okay, because of the way it's so simple now to access programs and data on people's machines. Security is a topic on its own, which I will deal with it separately. But then, why people are able to get into other people's machine, do what they don't have to do. Okay, they break the breach of confidentiality, and then they keep doing stuffs on their own. So security issues have always become major ones when it comes to computers which have been put into networks. But the truth also remains that most of these security issues that come up are as a result of our own actions on the internet. Our own actions lead to the security issues, most of them that really happen. The truth is, there's nothing like privacy now in our world. The moment you connect through the internet, no. As far as you find yourself on the internet, there's nothing like privacy. The privacy is dependent on how you handle things. Well, Majid, hand this one up. You done now? Or, okay. So that's exactly what happens. Privacy issues on networks are a very huge concern, a major concern for everyone. We are all getting hacked by day. We are all getting hacked on our systems at each moment. But on a LAN, it's much more intensive. It's much more intensive on a typical LAN. Okay. And then another thing is that a LAN does not cover a bigger area. I create a network, and it's typically designed to cover just a small area. Okay. It's used to manage machines or systems which are confined to limited places like offices, banks, and schools. But mind you, these same LANs are the ones which get connected into a bigger network later on. These same LANs which we see or which we create are the same ones which later on get connected to the bigger LAN, bigger network. After all, connecting them to a bigger one becomes simple because we already have our own network. So it's only a starting point though. It's a starting point for a bigger thing. But just that I have the choice of whether connecting to the internet or not. So the image here is a typical diagram of a LAN. This is a switch which is connecting the various devices within my local area network. So there's a laptop, there's a computer, there's a laptop, there's a printer. All these here are connecting to my LAN. Now I will need a router if I need to go ahead and establish a connection to a different network. Then I'll need a router. So that is what happens. But these switches, some of them are very powerful. We have managed switch and we have unmanaged switch. Today in our world, the managed switches, the very complex ones, are even getting to the extent of behaving like a router. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Yeah. But then of course, they are still switch. Okay. Then we have the metropolitan area network, the MAN. Now, the MAN is just like an extension of your LAN. Okay. It's like an extension of your LAN. So your LAN has now been extended beyond that local area network or that small proximity you may have in your confinement. Now it's gone beyond that one to other places. Okay, so it's no more done within a single building, but then it may be done in an area that is bigger than that local area building, that local, that small geographical area you have. Okay, and it may cover even an entire city or a very huge large campus. Especially, for example, UCC may have different branches. So one branch may be found here in Cape Coast. Another branch may also be found somewhere in Accra. Another branch may be found somewhere maybe in Kumasi. Now, it's gone beyond the local sites, that small site which is found in Cape Coast. But it's gone beyond a metropolitan. Cape Coast is a metropolitan. So if it's going beyond that Cape Coast metropolitan, or even if it's found within a whole city, but different branches at different places, but are connected together, then it's a metropolitan area network. So metropolitan area network, in terms of size, is bigger than a local area network. And what are the benefits? You may not necessarily need too much number of resources with respect to comparing it to others, the wide area network. The next one is the wide area network. But then for the wide area network, the number of resources you would need cost-wise is less expensive. But then it's still expensive, much more expensive than what you would need for a LAN. Yes. As I said, the cost is usually calculated. Just a minute, excuse me, just a minute. Let me just speak. Okay, sorry. So we try to determine those things. Like the cost is actually determined. It's a relative thing. Relatively, what is happening now, maybe compared to what is ahead or behind. That's where we do that. So it will be expensive, much more expensive with respect to what will happen in a LAN. Okay, so a lot of things will go in there. The devices you will need in there, the processing of data that will be happening in there, how centralized the data would be, because now you have different branches. So you may have a centralized point where all the processing may be carried out. So there must be a backbone which is connecting the different branches to the main branch. All of them will have to come to play to ensure that there is a proper way of doing it. So it's beneficially, in terms of benefit, it may be not as expensive as a WAN will be. Okay, but in comparison to a LAN, it will be. Okay, so the advantage here is in connection with the WAN, not really with the LAN. Okay, now in terms of speed too, most often the backbones which are used to transmit from different branches or from different areas will be a fiber optic cable. You know, we have three meters of cables. We have the fiber optic cables, then we have the coaxial cables. We have coaxial cables. Then we have what we call twisted pair cables. Now, amongst all these three, the fiber optic cables, the twisted pair cables, the coaxial cables, amongst these three, the fastest among them, the fiber optic. And the fiber optic cables are usually used as backbones to connect different major areas. Okay, so having a fiber optic connecting as a backbone in this MAN cable system, you are sure to have a proper and an efficient speed. Okay, and for that matter, exchange of data will be faster than what will happen in a LAN. It will be much more faster. Okay, and a MAN will consist of two or more LAN networks, as I have said earlier. Okay, and it can be connected faster because the LAN links can be quickly configured. And when it's configured, it's being done to connect to different areas or different networks. Okay, so for connectivity sake, it is possible and it's simple. Doesn't take much time or much thing. Why? Because the LANs are already in place. You are only connecting the backbones to make it, then you keep going. But as much as these are the good part of it, there may also be some other aspect of it in terms of cost. As I told you earlier, the cost here is relative. So it will always span in the advantage. The advantage will be in comparison to the lower one. Then the advantage will be in comparison to the higher one. So we compare them from that side. Okay, so a MAN will be expensive. Okay, why? Because it will need a technical person, a well-trained person to establish it. And that will also incur costs. that will also incur cost. You know, in IT, nothing seems to go for free. Everything you do, you try to bring in or make things stuff expensive. Let me give you an example. I think years ago there was this advert which was being shown on TV. I think it was an NIIT based program. But then a similar thing might have happened before. It's like a woman, a CEO of a company, a lady, who went to work one day. Now, that same morning, she had a conference call to make. So there was supposed to be a conference meeting. So she put on her machine. It was a desktop machine. She put on her machine, and then she realized that it's not functioning the way she wants it to function. Okay. So she realized that the things were not happening the way she had wanted it to happen. So she pressed the system unit, as I've said earlier, but then nothing was being displayed on the screen. So she felt like it was a big problem, because anytime she comes to work and she presses or she puts on the system unit, she sees a reflection of it on the monitor or the screen. But here's the case now: she does it and she sees nothing appearing on the screen. So she felt like her machine was faulty. In as much as she needed help from the local guy, she didn't get it. So she called in for an external guy, external technician, who came in to help. Now, when that external technician came in to help, that guy realized that, yes, the problem with the system was that the VGA cable or the HDMI cable, which is connecting the system unit to the monitor, has been pushed out a little. That's the problem he saw. So just push it in and then go. Then the woman would have also go. But then when he came, it's an external technician. So for him, he has already gone through the price issues with the woman, the company. So she's coming. The guy asked so many questions. So what is happening? This. And so the price tag that was placed on that service was maybe 2,000. And the woman accepted the call. But when the guy came, looking at the nature of the work, if we should push in the cable now, it will not be worth the 2,000. No, that 2,000 will not be. I mean, it will not be worth that 2,000, because he has already introduced a lot of stuff to the woman. Woman, your machine is collapsing. There's this issue, this issue, this issue. So I'm coming to solve it for you. I'm going to help you. But he came and he saw only a little push out of a cable. Just push it in and go. But an IT technician with that mentality, that mindset, will say, no, I'll lose my money. So now he went on, removed his lab coat from somewhere in his bag, put on his lab coat, lie down. The system unit was down, was on the floor. He had to just lie down. Yes, of course, I understand agreement is agreement. Agreement is agreement. But that is the mentality of IT. That black mind sometimes can also be solved. He went down there, he opened the system unit, then he kept asking the woman, please, has the thing come? The woman will also say, no. Oh, it's getting hard now. He will just unscrew things, then unscrew them back. He will just go ahead, remove the RAM, be doing some stuff on the RAM, put it back. Ask the woman, has it come? The woman will say no. Then we'll deliberately tell the woman that, CEO, your thing is getting complex. In fact, if you don't take care, you may lose your machine and the stuff you have in there. But I'll try hard. For 30 good minutes, this guy will just be lying down there, unplugging and plugging stuff, just for nothing's sake. Then at the end of the day, he just plugs in, push in the cable. Then ask the woman, has it come? Then the woman, out of happiness, great happiness, will tell the man, it has come. Then comes back, screw the stuff, and then come back and tell the woman, that was a great job. In fact, it was so complicated. But at the end of the day, we've been able to solve things out. In fact, such a situation, the woman may even be willing to add more money to you. Yes, we are agreeing on 2,000, but let me give you 1,000 extra. because you've done a great job for me. Look at this. That's for him. That is what he would think. For her, she will think of it. But an IT person will come and tell you, I'm sorry, woman, the guy has duped you. In fact, you've been overcharged. You've been pushed to a corner because you are naive. So that is what happens. And he will charge you and go. In a typical man configuration, it's a technical thing. So you can't just go and hide people. Yes, it's good to be crafty, but it's not good to be how do you call it? There's a term for it. I've forgotten. Don't use your craftiness to so dupe people. Yes. Get to the level of IT you need to get to, but also try to ensure that you do things in the right way. Let me give an example. In Cape Coast, I won't mention the company's name. I won't mention it. But a student I completed my first degree with, a colleague, a friend of mine, had the opportunity of doing his service in a company in Cape Coast here. When he got in there, he was led into the IT office to be helping the guys there to manage. The guy told me that every month, the CEO of the company had been made to, the mind had been made to tune in that the CEO had been made to think in the direction that for his, how do you call it, the antivirus on the machines, he pays not less than 1,500 cedis for someone to come and update the antivirus for the company. The CEO has been convinced that this is a company and we handle stuff in that direction. And the guy told me that even the IT people in the company do not agree with the CEO, but the CEO has signed this agreement with that company. And they've been able to convince that guy, that CEO, to accept that that's how it must go. So 1,500 cedis and even more every month for them to come and update their antivirus on their machines for them. Sometimes be crafty, but make sure you're also being doing the right thing. It's very important. Well, let's continue. So sometimes having to maintain and establish a metropolitan area network is expensive because it will need technical minds, top technical minds. The devices that will be put in place. And the security issues are also there. In fact, as I said, for security issues, you can never forgo security issues when it comes to networks. Whether it's a LAN or it's a MAN or it's whatever network, we can't forgo security issues. They are very, very critical. Very, very critical. Okay. Cabling, devices, and the rest are expensive also in such networks. They're expensive in such networks. So sometimes at the end of the day, you realize that you've put in a lot of money to establish these networks. Okay, the last network type is the case of a wide area network. Okay, I told you there's been so many issues with the formatting. The books that we are using, the modules we are using are being updated every time. So sometimes whilst formatting is ongoing, the templates some of the parts of the template may not even be taken out. So I think some parts of this book modules may reflect some templates which were used to do it. But then with time, it will be updated for proper use. Okay. Now, when you talk of a man, you are talking about the fact that there is no limitation for a WAN and a MAN. There are limitations in there. The limitations are because the area which they cover are limited. The area which they cover are limited. So they don't go beyond a particular span. That's where they are meant to exist. But for a wide area network, there's no limitation. It covers as many or as bigger parts you think, which means that it's covering the whole wide world. There's no proximity limitation. Everywhere in the world can be touched. That is how these ones really behave. So what are the advantages? In a typical such networks, typically what happens is that there's a centralized server or system which manages this whole network. Okay, so by using LAN 1, you can share the data which is connected to every device in the corresponding network. And as an illustration, you might set up a server at the head office and exchange the data around all the office branches. Okay, and that's how it goes. And most often, in a typical LAN, you don't need to purchase separate servers for emails, files, and backups. You can have all of them in one or at a particular central office where you can access. It's like just like saying, we don't need to buy servers or email servers to be able to also connect or get email systems on our networks or on our systems or on our machines. No, they are already there. So we only make use of those centralized systems. Okay, so in a typical one, almost all the various servers you would need on our systems have already been established. You only make use of them. You only make use of them, and then you go your way. That's a good thing. And it's also covering a very wide area. As I've said earlier, doesn't have such limitations. There's no limitations in there. It covers a very large area, a very huge area. So that gives you a power, or that gives you that advantage over the other ones which have been mentioned. Okay. Now, updates is very simple on such networks. Updates are simple. You sit at home, you sit at your place, and then straight away you get on board and you're able to update your staffs. Okay, you can sit everywhere and update your staff because the updates which exist are done on different servers. Okay, those updates exist on different servers. So you only tap into them, and then straight away you get your staffs updated. That's a very good part of the whole thing. A good part of the whole thing. So that is an advantage of it. We don't need to be struggling to get updates. As I've mentioned earlier, people are getting to places or coming to places just to update people's systems for them and charge huge amounts of money. Meanwhile, you can just make a click, just by a click on your system, update your whatever, because they are found on different servers. Okay. Now, message exchange is also timely, and it's very fast. It is timely and fast as well. So you are able to work with time. Okay. Look at these popular applications which we use: WhatsApp, Instagram, and the rest. These things are not residing on our machines. They are actually residing on machines elsewhere, but we are only making use of them, or those servers, because of the one. Had it not been the case of one, we wouldn't have been able to access them. But one has helped us to access them. And look, see how fast they can be, especially when you're chatting with a colleague, chatting with friends, all that. Okay, it's instant, then it goes. Instantly, it comes. All because of the one. Okay, one is fast and instant with respect to the applications which exist on them, because they are being backed by high level of technology. One is being backed by a very high level of technology, making it very superior when it comes to speed. They also offer guarantee of continuous connectivity and uptime. Okay, that LAN which you have in your home, in your office, in your wherever it may be located, that LAN, localized one, you may have to be the very person managing that LAN. Now, if your expertise or the devices which you are using in there is not highly advanced, you may always be experiencing downtimes. Okay, even in the storage and other stuff. But at least for the internet, you are sure of continuous connectivity. Because the one is actually being backed and managed by top top-notch expertise and with top-notch devices. Okay, so sometimes people say that, look, even if you want to be backing up your devices, your data, you may have a backup plan, and the backup plan may not necessarily have to exist on your localized machine. But maybe in a company, they have a machine in a different room where they are backing up their staffs. That's okay. But then there can always be a break in connectivity. And then the backup which you're expecting to be moving in there may not be getting there. But then for cloud storage, all you need is your internet connectivity. Hardly will you find cloud storage failing. The various clouds, those various cloud storage, whether it's Dropbox, whether it's the Google Drive, whether it's the iCloud or whatever, hardly will you, it's the issue may be existing with your own network. But then if you get a better network, a better internet connectivity, and you are using it, those things don't fail. It's at a place they don't fail. Yeah, so they are very reliable, very, very reliable. Again, the issue of speed comes in here. I mean, the issue of security, comes in here. So security-wise, you are exposed to almost every person in the world. That's what internet means. Internet simply means, I'm just exposing myself. It's a networks which have been intertwined or internetworked. Local networks in different places, and they have been interrelated or intertwined. So all of them have come together. So we are connecting everyone. And you think there's privacy? No. As far as we are connected to all other people in this world, it means that we have exposed ourselves to all other people as well. We've just exposed ourselves to all other people as well. So the possibility and the ability for others to get into our privacy is extremely high. So the rate at which hacking and others are becoming very rampant in our world today, it's serious. Okay, it's serious. These hackers will easily try to identify some vulnerabilities with us and then hit us on that vulnerability. Okay, so if you really want to maintain proper security, it must exist on your side. Let me give you an example. Recently, we were interviewing, I was part of a panel that was interviewing some lecturers to be picked in one university. It's actually a private university set up in Cape Coast. So they came to UCC to pick some of our lecturers to be on the panel while they recruit or they employ lecturers in their IT department. So the IT lecturers. So I happened to be on one of the panels, one of the interviews. We were 4. Now, one lecturer amongst us was not from UCC, but from a different place. They had to call on some other people from a different place. But then he's a lecturer who was really, let me say, he doesn't take things lightly at all. The least thing he gets angered. That is the nature of some people. The least thing he responds to the people, unless, of course, it's something which needs that attention. Fine. But some of the things that may happen, it may sometimes need some interrogation until you get there. Then this guy came, a lecturer, someone who has applied to be a lecturer came, and he stood before the panel. He did a beautiful presentation. In fact, amongst the ones that came earlier, this guy was seen to be the best. In fact, I was so convinced. Now, whilst we were actually applauding him and getting on the stage where we needed to tell him that, look, what you've done is exceptional. And maybe more likely, we needed to tell you right there that go and prepare and come back and teach in that institution because you've done extremely well. When he turned and was going, this other lecturer who was part of the panel and not from UCC though, Call him and just ask him a question.
What's going on? What's going on?
Hello, is it my end or what? I can't hear anything.
Hello, guys. Please,
No, no, the election.
the lecturer says there is a power outage in it's a power outage in UCC main campus, the science department. So
His line is
uh, let's wait for a while. If he's back, he'll join us any moment now.
Okay.
Class rep is cooking.
Good afternoon, guys. Please, who can add me to the platform? WhatsApp platform.
Which sector are you?
Please, I'm at Upper West. Wah.
Upper West.
Yes, please. Please, I'm begging.
If you can get a colleague to ask whether he or she is on the platform, I think that would be the best option. Or better still, you can, I don't know if the course rep is there, so that maybe probably you can take his number and then you send him or her hi for him to add you.
Okay, please, I'm begging. You give me your contact.
Let me give you my contact so that you 0204
020
4 83
83
23
23
another 23.
23. Okay.
Yeah.
Please, thank you. Your name? Prosper.
I'm Prosper.
Okay, thank you, please.
0204 83 2323.
020
4.
48
Okay.
32 323.
That's okay.
Okay, thank
So
you.
you kindly send me hi so that, yes, please.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you doing VSIT or you are doing different course? Then you are doing this course too.
Okay, please, I'm doing a BED.
PED.
Is it BEd Mathematics or BEd IT?
Designer.
Designing.
Yes, please.
So it's BEd IT.
Designer.
I think communication design is
Yes.
major.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So are you doing packaging and environmental what and what? Are you doing that course?
No, please.
So which are the courses you registered for this semester?
Okay. Let me check.
Level 300, right?
Yes, please. It's level 300. Please, I'm doing identity designer and braiding. Then
Okay.
a package and environmental graphic. Assignment in information technology education, internet and work pedagogics. And network computer one, yes, and software engineering, information system management, and web technology too.
What technology?
Upper West, we are here, but just that we don't know you yet.
You people are in Upper West here?
Yes, of course.
Then I think,
I'm looking for.
can you give your number to her so that maybe after the class she would chat you so that maybe you can pick it from there.
Okay. Should I mention my number? 054.
You wait. What do you see connected before? Are you still connected before?
Please.
Okay.
Please. Should I mention it?
Yeah, go on.
054.
Yes.
8989 46 290. 054 89 46 290.
Because the last time I can remember people were complaining that maybe it might be a mistake that you were admitted into level 300. You remember?
Is there admission? Apply, use HND to apply. So the admission letter, they give me level 300.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I think it's because
when I even register the courses, it's under level 300.
Okay.
Hello, Rita.
Yes, please.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
It's Ransom.
Okay.
I hope you remember.
Senior Ransom, or who is that?
Yes,
So
yes.
the class is, hey, if you finish, make I continue.
Dr.
Hey,
Helalema.
Yes.
I feel like
So what
not
is
with the
happening is that
introduction inside.
yes. So what is happening is that you see we are about to write our quizzes.
Yes, please.
So if you've registered with HND,
Yes,
you will only
please.
be in level 300 if you are doing BSc. Okay. But if you are
Okay.
doing B.Ed, you will have to go back to level 200. Okay. So unless if you don't do that, when they finish writing the quizzes, they will come back and tell you that you should go back to level 200 when they are already done with the quizzes. So you have to call Dr. Ama. He's the one, I think he is in charge of these things. If you call him, he will be able to tell you more about it. Okay.
Okay. But yesterday, when I went the coordinator of Y here. So now I just confused, Cora.
Yes, that's what they do. I registered first. It was the same thing. Some of us went through the same thing. We joined this class, getting to the ending part. They came back and told us to go back because their system has issues. So I have to go back to level 200 and then come. So you have to find out more before we start the quiz, else it will affect you.
Okay. Thank you.
But are you the only person as a new level 200 there?
I'm also a new person.
I mean, what's entered there?
No. Mine is Bolga.
Bolga.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should also make the call and see.
Because mine to give indicated level 200. So I don't know what Ransom is saying, whether I also face that challenge or not.
Yeah, one of the lecturers was saying that you can't actually just start from a level 300 B.Ed if you are doing B.Ed. So just like Ransom said, that if you are doing BS, then that one there you may be able to start from 300.
Yeah, I'm doing BSc.
Okay, so yours is different from Richard's case.
My own too is BSc B.Ed.
Yours is B.Ed. Yes, that's B.Ed.
Yes, my own is B.Ed.
And his is B.S.
So the
Bachelor of
BSc is
Science.
different from BSc.
No, my
Bachelor
own
of
is
Science.
not.
And Rita, yours is Bachelor of Education.
Yes, designing.
My
My own is B.Ed. It's B.Ed.
So yes, so he may be able to stay in level 300, but you have to make the call and see whether you should stay or you should
I should mail a call before.
yes, make the call.
My colleague own is a Bachelor of Science.
Yes, so the Bachelor of Science is different from the Bachelor of Education.
Okay, my own is education.
Yes,
Is there anyone
he will not be doing the educational courses.